She endured the war, but high school had no idea how to handle her. Her boots clicked softly against the ground as she walked toward the transport hub, her eyes scanning everything with the trained precision of a soldier. Yet this was not a battlefield. This was home, Earth. It had been years since she had last seen it. Years of fighting in a war that spanned galaxies, facing enemies that no one on Earth could even imagine. Arya had survived missions that would have broken ordinary soldiers. She had endured loss after loss, witnessed comrades vanish in firestorms, and faced dangers that were unimaginable. And now she was back, not as a soldier but as a student. The thought of going to high school again felt strange. Arya had left this world as a young teen, and now she was returning as someone shaped by war, someone who had learned to read patterns, predict movements, and respond with exact precision. To the other students, she would look like a regular girl, tall, strong, and confident. But underneath, she carried a mind trained for survival, with memories that weighed heavily on her. The shuttle ride had been quiet. The other passengers, families returning from off-world colonies, traders, tourists, chattered about the weather, the upcoming school year, and Earth politics. Arya had barely noticed. Her thoughts were elsewhere, running scenarios and imagining how she could adjust to this peaceful, ordinary world. Peace was strange, peace was soft, and she had almost forgotten what it felt like. Her parents waited at the hub. Their faces showed pride and relief. Her mother hugged her tightly, the embrace filled with unspoken words. Her father, always the quieter one, placed a hand on her shoulder, feeling the tension in her muscles. "Welcome home, Arya," he said softly. "Home," she echoed, the word feeling foreign. The ride to her new school was uneventful, but Arya noticed details others might miss. The way the traffic lights synchronized, the patterns of pedestrians, the small ways people moved that revealed their priorities and habits. Years of training had left her with an instinct she could not turn off. When she arrived at Westbridge High, the sheer size of it made her pause. It was bigger than any school she had imagined. Multiple floors, wide hallways, glass windows reflecting the morning sun. Students milled around, some laughing, some arguing over minor things, some running late. Arya's gaze swept over the crowd, and for a moment she remembered a battlefield, but quickly reminded herself that this was different. Different rules, different stakes. She stepped inside, her backpack light compared to the combat packs she once carried. The halls were noisy, filled with sounds she had almost forgotten. Lockers slamming, footsteps echoing, snippets of conversation. A group of students passed by, whispering and pointing at her. She caught a few words. New girl, military, intense. Arya ignored them. Curiosity and judgment were predictable. She had learned that in the war, observing without reacting was a skill that had saved her life countless times. Still, she couldn't deny the slight tension in her chest. High school had its own battlefield, and she was entering without a map. The first class was history. She walked in quietly, scanning the room. Desks arranged in rows, posters on the walls, a projector at the front. The teacher, Mr. Caldwell, gave a small nod as she took a seat near the back. She noticed the seating patterns, who seemed popular, who stayed quiet, who watched others for cues. Patterns, they were everywhere. "Good morning, Arya," Mr. Caldwell said. "Welcome to Westbridge High," she nodded politely. "Thank you, sir." The other students whispered among themselves, sneaking glances. A few stared openly, their curiosity obvious. Arya felt their eyes but did not react. She had learned long ago that showing fear or surprise could be dangerous. Even in a classroom, observation and calm were her tools. The lesson began, and Arya listened intently. The teacher spoke of past civilizations, wars fought on Earth centuries ago, and the lessons humanity had learned. Arya's mind occasionally drifted, not out of boredom but out of habit. She compared strategies, outcomes, and leadership decisions from the history book to her own experiences in interstellar conflicts. She found connections others would never notice. During a break, a boy with messy hair and a backpack that looked too heavy for him approached. "Hey," he said, "you're new here, right? I'm Liam." Arya studied him briefly. Friendly, slightly anxious but intelligent eyes. She nodded. "I'm Arya." "Cool," Liam said. "So you just got back from?" He hesitated, unsure. "Far," Arya replied simply. "Enough said." Liam laughed nervously. "Right. Well, if you need someone to show you around, I can do that." "Thank you," Arya said. She didn't need guidance, but allies were always useful. In war, a single trustworthy person could make all the difference. The rest of the day passed in a blur. Arya noticed the subtle hierarchies, groups forming and breaking, alliances shifting, rumors spreading. Students challenged each other with words, not weapons, but the strategy was similar. She had survived far greater dangers, but the human mind had its own battlefield. She observed, learned, and adapted. At lunch, she sat alone at a table in the corner. Other students looked at her curiously, some approached, and then walked away when she did not engage immediately. She ate quietly, watching interactions. A small fight almost broke out over a spilled drink. Without thinking, Arya intervened calmly, separating the students with a few simple words and gestures. The conflict ended almost immediately. Some students stared in awe, others whispered. One girl, blonde hair tied in a ponytail, finally approached. You're really intense," she said. "Do you always control situations like that?" Arya looked at her calmly. "I stay calm, that helps." The girl nodded, a mixture of fear and respect in her eyes. Arya knew she would become a subject of fascination and maybe fear within the school. It was unavoidable. People always reacted strongly to someone who did not fit their expectations. By the end of the day, Arya had learned more about Westbridge High than most students did in a week. She noted who was observant, who was reckless, who could be trusted. And most importantly, she had realized that while this world seemed simple compared to the war, its challenges were different, but not necessarily easier. Walking home, Arya felt a strange sense of anticipation. High school might seem ordinary, but she could sense that her presence would shift the balance. Humans were resilient, unpredictable, and sometimes underestimated. She had survived against foes that were smarter, stronger, and more ruthless than any teenager. But she had also learned that endurance was not just about strength, it was about perception, patience, and subtlety. Arya knew one thing for certain: she would endure here too. High school might not know how to handle her yet, but she would navigate it, just as she had navigated war. And in the quiet of her room that night, as she looked at the ceiling, Arya allowed herself a small smile. Perhaps this battlefield, though unfamiliar, would teach her lessons no war ever could. The morning sun filtered through the large windows of Westbridge High as Arya walked into the hallways, her steps purposeful and calm. By now, most students had heard of the new girl, the one who had returned from somewhere far, someone who seemed different, almost unreachable. Whispers followed her, curious eyes tracking her every movement. Arya did not mind. She had long learned that attention could be useful if observed correctly. Her first class was math. She slipped quietly into the room and took a seat near the back, her eyes scanning the room as usual. Numbers, equations, logic, they were simple compared to the complexity of a battlefield. But even here she could see patterns: who struggled, who excelled, who relied on others for support. It was like a mini strategy game, and Arya had a natural advantage. The teacher, Ms. Rivera, started the lesson, writing equations on the board. A student at the front struggled to solve a problem. Several classmates snickered. Without intending to draw attention, Arya solved the problem in her notebook with a few quick steps, her handwriting neat and precise. When the student at the board saw her answer, he froze. Ms. Rivera glanced at Arya, surprised. "Well, that's correct," she said. "Thank you, Arya," some students muttered under their breath. "Who does she think she is?" one whispered. "Showing off like that?" another added. "She's too smart, it's weird." Arya didn't respond. She had no desire to impress anyone. Intelligence alone did not earn respect in her world. It was action, decisions, and endurance. Yet here her actions already made waves. During lunch, she returned to the same quiet corner. A few students watched her, some daring to approach. Liam, the boy who had introduced himself on her first day, came over with two others, Mara and Theo. "Hey," Liam said, sliding into the seat across from her. "So you're really different. I mean, everyone notices you." Arya looked at him calmly. "I'm not trying to stand out, I just am myself." Mara tilted her head. "But it's not normal. You handle things so fast, like when that fight almost started in the cafeteria yesterday." "No one moves like that." Arya took a sip of her water. "In some situations, fast reactions save people." Theo frowned. "That's kind of scary." Arya gave them a faint smile. "It's not meant to be scary, just efficient." The conversation paused there. Arya didn't try to make friends. She observed them. Each one had their strengths and weaknesses. Liam was clever, Mara was brave, Theo was cautious. Together, they could be useful allies if she needed them. In war, she had learned to value even small advantages. The rest of the week passed in a blur of classes, observations, and small interactions. Arya noticed the subtle hierarchy among students, who led, who followed, who spread rumors. She also observed that the teachers often struggled to manage conflicts that seemed trivial to her. Arguments, teasing, and pranks, these were battles of a different kind. One afternoon, while walking to her locker, she noticed a commotion. A group of boys had surrounded a smaller student, laughing and teasing him for dropping his books. Arya's instincts kicked in immediately. She approached calmly, her presence alone creating a subtle shift. "Hey," she said, her voice firm but controlled. "Step back." The boys looked at her, surprised. "Or what?" one asked, smirking. Arya didn't answer immediately. Instead, she moved closer, her posture relaxed but precise. She didn't need to threaten, her confidence spoke for her. Slowly, the boys stepped back, muttering under their breath. The small student hurried away, grateful but confused. "Who is she?" one whispered. "Don't mess with her," another replied. "She's different." Arya walked away, her mind noting the effect she had caused. Control without force, it was a lesson she had learned in war, and now she could apply it here. Later that week, during a science lab, she noticed something interesting. A few students were trying to cheat, passing notes and whispering answers. Most teachers would have overlooked it, thinking it harmless. But Arya's instincts detected patterns. She subtly rearranged the equipment and instructions in a way that exposed their cheating without confrontation. The students were embarrassed, and the teacher praised Arya for her observation skills. Word spread quickly. Some students were impressed, others resentful. It seemed she was creating ripples in every corner she touched. And while Arya did not seek recognition, she understood that influence was inevitable. By Friday, a small group had formed around her. Liam, Mara, Theo, and a few others who admired her efficiency and calmness became her unofficial companions. They were eager to learn from her, though she made no promises. Still, she allowed them small lessons, how to observe situations, make quick decisions, and stay calm under pressure. To them, it was unusual but fascinating. The tension reached its peak one afternoon during gym class. A relay race was underway. Most students were focused on winning, shouting, and pushing forward. Arya observed quietly until it was her turn. When she ran, her movements were precise, her timing perfect. She didn't just win the race, she altered the flow of the game, helping teammates anticipate the baton pass. Some students cheered, others scowled. The captain of the opposing team confronted her after class. "You're too good," he said. "It's not fair." Arya looked at him calmly. "Fairness is a choice. I choose to do my best." He didn't know how to respond. Most didn't. Arya had a presence that unsettled those who underestimated her. That evening, as she walked home, she reflected on the week. High school was not like war. It lacked the immediate danger, the life-or-death stakes. But it was still a test. Here, the battles were social, mental, and emotional, and yet she found it strangely satisfying. People underestimated her, and she could navigate that ignorance to her advantage. At home, her parents noticed changes. Arya seemed quieter, more focused, and more aware of everything around her. Her mother asked, "Is it hard being back?" Arya considered the question. "It's different, not harder, just different," her father nodded. "You've always adapted. You'll find your way here too." Arya smiled faintly. She hoped he was right. The following week brought a new challenge. Rumors about her abilities spread, and not everyone reacted well. A group of popular students decided to test her, setting up a prank designed to embarrass her in front of the entire school. Arya noticed the setup before it happened. She could see the patterns, the timing, the placement, the intended reactions. During lunch, as the prank unfolded, she remained calm. When it was clear the prank was about to succeed, she intervened in a subtle way, redirecting attention and neutralizing the situation without humiliation or confrontation. The pranksters were confused and frustrated. Other students were amazed. Afterward, Liam approached her. "You handled that perfectly. How did you even know?" Arya shrugged. "Observation. Patterns are easy to see if you pay attention." Mara added, "You're kind of amazing, Arya, but also scary." Arya smiled faintly. "I don't want to scare anyone. I just react the way I must." By the end of the week, Arya had learned something important. High school was a battlefield of its own, filled with subtle wars, alliances, and rivalries. She had survived far greater dangers, but the challenges here required patience, observation, and strategic action. And for the first time in years, she felt that she could use her skills to make a positive difference. As she walked home on Friday afternoon, the sky painted in shades of orange and pink, Arya allowed herself a small moment of satisfaction. She had survived her first week. She had observed, learned, and acted. And though the students of Westbridge High did not yet fully understand her, they had glimpsed a hint of her strength, and that was enough. High school was not war, but it had its own lessons. And Arya was ready to endure them just as she had endured everything else. The halls of Westbridge High buzzed with the usual chaos. Laughter, chatter, lockers slamming, and hurried footsteps. But this week, the whispers about Arya Voss had grown louder. Students who had been cautious before were now openly curious. Some admired her, others feared her, and a few were determined to challenge her. High school, as Arya quickly realized, had a rhythm of its own, and she was starting to disrupt it. It began on Monday morning. Arya entered the cafeteria for breakfast, her tray in hand, when she noticed a group of students huddled together, speaking in hushed tones. Their eyes flicked toward her as she walked past. She didn't slow down, but she observed carefully the way they shifted, the way they tried to appear casual while hiding their attention. Patterns. They were testing reactions, probing to see how she would respond. Arya took her usual seat in the corner. Liam, Mara, and Theo joined her. "I think some people are planning something," Liam whispered. "Not mean, just curious, I guess." Arya studied him. "Curiosity is natural, but it can become a problem if it leads to confrontation." Mara frowned. "You mean like a fight?" "Not exactly," Arya replied. "But in a way, yes, attention can turn into conflict if handled poorly." Before they could continue, a tall girl with sharp eyes and a confident stride approached their table. "So, you're Arya," she said, her tone calm but challenging. "I'm Selena. People are talking about you." Arya looked up slowly, noting the posture, the expression, the subtle hints of her personality. "I've heard," she said simply. Selena smiled faintly. "Well, you're different, that's obvious, but difference can be threatening to some people." Arya remained composed. "I do not intend to threaten anyone, I am simply present." Selena studied her for a moment, then nodded. "Fair enough, but just so you know, people around here don't like being unsettled." Arya nodded. "Understood." As Selena walked away, Arya felt the tension in the air. High school was becoming more than observations and quiet strategy. Some students were testing her boundaries. Some were challenging the rules of this new environment, and that meant she needed to be ready. The first real test came during history class. The teacher assigned a debate about ethics in war, a topic that immediately drew Arya's attention. As she listened to other students, she noted their arguments, their biases, and their weaknesses. When her turn came, she spoke calmly and clearly, drawing on her real-life experience. "My perspective," she said, "comes from seeing the consequences of war firsthand. Decisions are not theoretical, they affect lives. Strategy matters, but so does morality. Leadership is tested not just in success, but in the choices made under pressure." Some students gasped, others whispered, a few nodded. Arya had a presence that made words heavier, more meaningful. She did not argue to win, she spoke to clarify. But the effect was the same, respect mixed with unease. By the next day, tension was visible. Some students avoided her, others tried to provoke her. A small group, led by a boy named Jace, decided to challenge her in a physical way during gym class. They did not intend serious harm, but they wanted to see how she reacted. Arya noticed their plan immediately. The way they positioned themselves, the timing of their actions, the subtle signs of their coordination. It was familiar, a battlefield pattern. She didn't panic. Instead, she prepared. When the challenge came, she responded with calm precision. She moved just enough to avoid collisions, anticipated their strategies, and guided the game in a way that diffused aggression without humiliation. The students were frustrated. Some respected her. Some whispered that she had cheated, but she had done nothing unfair. She had simply observed and acted with efficiency. Afterward, Liam approached her. "You handled them perfectly again. It's like you can see things no one else notices." Arya shrugged lightly. "Patterns exist. Recognizing them is useful." Mara added, "You're scary but also amazing. People are going to start noticing that." Arya smiled faintly. "Let them notice. Awareness is the first step toward understanding." As the week progressed, more subtle conflicts arose. Rumors about her background spread, fueled by curiosity and fear. Some students speculated about her past, imagining incredible stories of bravery or danger. Others dismissed her as odd or strange. Arya did not mind. She had learned long ago that perception could be managed but never controlled. People would interpret her presence in their own way. One afternoon, a minor incident escalated. During chemistry class, a group of students accidentally spilled chemicals on a table. Panic spread quickly, but Arya remained calm. She assessed the situation, identified the safest steps to prevent further accidents, and guided the teacher and students through a quick solution. By the end of the day, whispers had turned into cautious admiration. Some students were genuinely impressed, others were wary, and a few, like Selena and Jace, were quietly plotting their next moves. High school, Arya realized, was an evolving battlefield. Outside of classes, Arya noticed another challenge. Technology had always fascinated her, even in the war. She observed students using smartphones, tablets, and social media to influence opinions and gain power. The patterns were similar to information warfare she had witnessed before. One evening, Liam approached her after school. "There's something weird going on," he said. "Some students are posting things online about you, mostly rumors, but some are strange. You might want to see it." Arya nodded. "Show me." He handed her his tablet. Indeed, there were posts speculating about her past, exaggerating her abilities and trying to provoke reactions. Some were harmless, others were meant to unsettle her. Arya studied the posts. Each one had a pattern, the timing, the source, the intended emotional effect. She traced them carefully, learning who was involved. It was a small digital battlefield, and she recognized it immediately. "Leave them be for now," she said finally. "Observing without reaction is more effective than responding." Liam frowned. "Won't they keep pushing if you don't respond?" "Perhaps," Arya replied, "but pushing often reveals true intentions. Patience teaches more than confrontation." By the next week, Arya's subtle influence began to show. Students who had been indifferent now approached her for guidance. Those who had tried to challenge her realized she was not an ordinary student. Teachers, too, noticed her efficiency and calmness, though they did not fully understand it. However, not all was peaceful. Selena continued to watch her, a mix of curiosity and challenge in her eyes. Jace and his group remained quietly competitive, testing boundaries when they thought no one was observing. And in the background, strange incidents began to occur. Small electrical malfunctions, unusual messages, and minor accidents that seemed oddly timed. Arya noticed these patterns immediately. They were not random. She could feel the faint presence of an intelligence testing her, probing boundaries just as students did. Unlike students, however, this was more calculating, more deliberate. She realized she needed to prepare, not for a fight, but for understanding. Observation, patience, and strategic action were necessary. And she began training Liam, Mara, and Theo subtly, teaching them ways to anticipate situations, think critically, and respond calmly. "Why are you showing us this?" Mara asked one afternoon as they sat in the park after school. "Because it helps," Arya replied simply. "Situations are easier to handle if you can see what others cannot." Theo frowned. "It feels like training for war." Arya met his gaze. "It is. In a way, it always is. Life has patterns, threats, and challenges. Recognizing them is survival. High school is no different, just less obvious." By the end of the week, tension had risen noticeably. Students whispered about her growing influence. Teachers were impressed but cautious. And Arya herself felt the subtle shift. High school was no longer just observation and learning. It had become a place where her presence could change dynamics, and she had to be ready for the next challenge. Walking home one evening, Arya considered everything that had happened. She had learned that endurance was not just about surviving obvious threats. It was about navigating subtle ones, understanding patterns, and influencing outcomes without unnecessary force. High school, she realized, was testing her in ways that were different but no less important. And she was ready to face whatever came next. Because for Arya Voss, surviving a battlefield was not just about strength. It was about perception, strategy, and patience. And Westbridge High was about to see that for itself. The morning air was crisp as Arya Voss entered Westbridge High. She moved with the same calm precision she had shown since her first day, but something felt different. The subtle tension she had sensed in the past weeks was growing. Small signs, minor accidents, unexplained malfunctions, and odd glances from certain students hinted that someone or something was observing her. In history class, the teacher discussed famous battles of the past. Arya listened, but her mind also scanned the classroom for patterns. Students whispered, shifted in their seats, and glanced at her more than usual. She noticed a faint signal in the behavior of a few students, unusual coordination as if they were communicating silently. Her instincts told her this was not ordinary. After class, Liam approached her with a worried look. "Arya, something weird happened in the lab today. Some equipment went haywire, lights flickering, computers freezing, and no one could explain it." Arya nodded slowly. "I noticed it too. It is not random." Mara frowned. "What do you mean? Are you saying someone's messing with us?" "Possibly," Arya replied. "Or something is testing boundaries. Either way, we must be cautious. Observation is key before taking action." Theo added nervously, "Should we tell the teachers?" Arya considered this. "Not yet. They cannot handle the full picture. We need to understand the situation before involving others." Over the next few days, the strange incidents grew more frequent. Lockers jammed inexplicably, messages appeared on digital boards with no sender, and minor accidents happened at exactly the wrong times. Most students were unaware, attributing events to coincidence or technical glitches. But Arya recognized a pattern, a subtle probe testing reactions, assessing responses. During lunch, she gathered Liam, Mara, and Theo at their usual table. "We need to train," she said simply. "Train?" Mara asked. "For what? It's just weird stuff happening around school." Arya looked at her steadily. "It may be just school to you, but to me it is preparation. Understanding, anticipating, and responding to unexpected events can prevent harm. You have to learn to see what others do not." Liam leaned forward eagerly. "Like strategy." "Like what you do in war?" Arya nodded. "Exactly, not for fighting but for awareness. Even small threats can escalate if ignored. We must be ready." They began their subtle training quietly in the library and empty classrooms. Arya taught them to notice small details, changes in behavior, patterns in movement, irregularities in technology, and timing of events. She showed them how to remain calm under pressure and think several steps ahead. To the others, it felt like a game, but Arya treated it seriously, as a way to prepare for threats no one else could see. One afternoon, the training proved its value. During a chemistry experiment, a container of volatile chemicals tipped over unexpectedly. Most students panicked, but Arya and her small team moved quickly. Arya guided them to contain the spill safely, directing students to safe positions while neutralizing the hazard efficiently. The teacher, unaware of the unseen danger Arya had anticipated, praised her for her quick thinking. Whispers of admiration followed her around the school. Some students were impressed, others intimidated, and a few quietly plotted their next moves, still curious about her abilities. But the real challenge came after school. Walking home, Arya sensed something unusual, a presence faint but deliberate. She scanned the street, noting patterns in the shadows and movements of people around her. Then she noticed it, a small, hovering device, unlike anything she had seen on Earth. It emitted a low hum and appeared to be observing her. Arya's heart did not race, but her mind shifted into focus. She had encountered surveillance technology in the war, but this was different, smaller, more subtle, almost designed for casual observation. She followed it discreetly, noting its pattern while ensuring that no one nearby could notice. When she reached her home, she set up simple countermeasures, small devices that could track movements and detect electronic signals. By the time her parents asked about her day, she smiled faintly. "Everything is fine," she said. Inside her room, she studied the data. The device had been observing her throughout the day, learning routines, noting reactions, and recording patterns. It was sophisticated, too sophisticated for ordinary students. Someone or something had followed her to Westbridge High. The next morning, Arya returned to school with a quiet determination. She observed the hallways, noting any unusual behavior. A student bumped into her intentionally, seemingly by accident. Another dropped a notebook near her desk. Small probes, subtle tests. During lunch, Selena approached once again. "You're not like anyone here," she said softly, "and people are noticing." "You've changed things already." Arya met her gaze. "Change is inevitable when someone does not follow expectations. I do not seek conflict, but I cannot ignore patterns that are dangerous or inefficient." Selena nodded slowly. "I guess that's fair, but be careful. Not everyone reacts well to difference." Arya gave no reply, only a faint, acknowledging smile. Difference, she thought, was a tool. How it was perceived depended on both the observer and the one being observed. The week continued with rising tension. More strange incidents occurred. Lockers that locked and unlocked without explanation, sudden power surges, and messages that seemed impossible. Most students remained oblivious, but Arya's team began noticing subtle signs. One evening, Liam approached her with concern. "Arya, something's following us. Not just you, it's affecting the school too. Lights flicker, doors lock unexpectedly, computers crash. It's weird." Arya's expression remained calm. "I have observed these patterns. They are deliberate. Someone or something is testing responses, assessing reactions. We must be prepared to act, but only when necessary." Mara shivered. "Do you think it's dangerous?" "It could be," Arya replied, "but fear is counterproductive. Observation, preparation, and calm action will keep us safe." The following day, a real test arrived. During science lab, a chemical reaction went unexpectedly wrong. A small fire started, spreading quickly across the table. Most students panicked. Arya and her team acted instantly. Arya directed them to safety, extinguished the fire with precision, and ensured no one was hurt. When the teacher arrived, oblivious to the subtle electronic interference that had caused the accident, she praised Arya for saving the situation. Students whispered, "She's amazing and she's different." But Arya knew better. This was not ordinary school life. Someone or something was orchestrating these incidents to test her abilities and possibly those around her. She had to prepare her team, train them further, and anticipate more complex challenges. That evening, she called a small meeting at her house. Liam, Mara, and Theo gathered around. "We need to understand what we're facing," Arya said. "It's not just school anymore. Something is observing us, testing us, learning from us. We must respond strategically." Theo frowned. "But what can we do? We're just students." "You are not just students," Arya replied. "You are capable of observation, critical thinking, and quick action. These skills are enough if we use them wisely. We will prepare for the unexpected and protect each other." Over the next week, Arya's training intensified. They practiced observing without being noticed, anticipating small events, and responding calmly to unexpected challenges. Arya taught them subtle tactics, moving without drawing attention, communicating silently through gestures, and recognizing signs of manipulation or testing. By the end of the week, Arya felt a quiet confidence. She knew the strange occurrences would escalate, but she and her small team were ready. Westbridge High was no longer just a school. It had become a place of hidden battles, subtle tests, and growing awareness. And Arya Voss, survivor of interstellar war, was prepared to face them all. Because survival was not just about strength or skill. It was about perception, patience, and strategic action. And in this hidden battlefield of everyday life, Arya was more than ready to endure. The morning sky was pale as Arya Voss walked into Westbridge High. The tension she had sensed for weeks had grown into a quiet intensity, almost like the calm before a storm. She knew the strange incidents. The flickering lights, locked doors, unexplained messages were not random. Someone or something was testing her, probing her reactions, and learning. Today, she would face the culmination of all those subtle battles. Her small team, Liam, Mara, and Theo, waited for her in the library. They had been trained, guided, and prepared for unexpected challenges. Arya met their eyes with calm resolve. "Today we may face more than minor tests," she said. "Stay focused, trust each other. Observation and action will protect us." Liam nodded eagerly. "We're ready." Mara clenched her fists. "Let's do this." Theo swallowed hard. "I hope we can handle it." Arya smiled faintly. "You can. Remember, calm and strategy win over panic." The first sign came during the morning announcements. The screens in the hall flickered and a message appeared. "Observe closely, Arya Voss. Your abilities are noted." The message disappeared before teachers could react. Most students were confused, but Arya saw the pattern immediately. It was a direct challenge, testing both her composure and the awareness of those around her. "Not a threat, just a test," she murmured to her team. "Stay alert." Classes continued, but the tension was palpable. Subtle signals appeared throughout the day. Doors left ajar, electronic devices acting strangely, a faint hum in the air. Arya's senses were heightened, and she moved with purpose, anticipating the next action. Liam, Mara, and Theo followed her cues, observing and learning. By mid-afternoon, the situation escalated. During science class, a small fire started at a lab table, too sudden to be accidental. Chemicals bubbled dangerously, and smoke began to rise. Most students panicked, but Arya acted swiftly. She guided everyone to safety, while calmly extinguishing the fire with precision. The teacher, unaware of the hidden triggers causing the incident, praised Arya. Students whispered, some impressed, some frightened. But Arya knew this was not the main challenge. This was preparation, a way to test how she and her team would respond under pressure. After class, Arya noticed a subtle movement near the hall doors, a small hovering device, almost invisible to the untrained eye. It moved quietly, scanning the area, recording patterns. Her instincts told her this was the same observer she had tracked before. "Stay calm," she whispered to her team. "It is the test we anticipated." Liam glanced nervously. "How do we deal with it?" Arya studied the device. "We do not attack. We observe, learn, and respond strategically. Reaction without understanding is dangerous." The device moved closer, circling them in the hallway. Arya analyzed its pattern, anticipating its next move. Then she acted, subtle, precise, and almost invisible. She guided Liam, Mara, and Theo to positions that blocked its observation without drawing attention. The device paused, adjusted, and retreated, recording their response. Arya knew it would return, testing again, but she was ready. The final challenge came during the school assembly. Students gathered in the auditorium, buzzing with curiosity. Arya and her team took seats near the back. The lights flickered, the projector screen glitched, and an electronic voice echoed. "Observe and respond, Arya Voss." "Show your endurance." Gasps and whispers filled the room. Teachers attempted to regain control, but the anomalies continued. Lights dimmed and brightened, doors clicked, and digital devices displayed random patterns. Most students panicked. Arya's heart did not race. Her mind calculated possibilities, assessing patterns and anticipating outcomes. "Follow my lead," she whispered to her team. They moved as one, calm and precise, guiding students to safe positions without causing chaos. Arya's presence was steady, commanding respect and attention without fear. She neutralized hazards subtly, using knowledge, observation, and strategy rather than force. The device appeared again, hovering near the stage, observing the chaos. Arya met its challenge calmly. She approached it slowly, analyzing its movements and signals. With a small, precise gesture, she deactivated its sensors, rendering it harmless. The device powered down completely, unable to continue its test. A quiet settled over the auditorium. Students stared in awe, teachers were speechless, and whispers of admiration filled the air. For the first time, many realized that Arya was not just different, she was extraordinary. Selena, who had watched from the side, approached cautiously. You handled that perfectly," she said softly. "I don't know anyone else who could." Arya met her gaze. It was not about strength. It was about observation, patience, and calm action. Anyone can achieve this if they learn to notice what others miss. By the end of the day, news of Arya's calm mastery spread throughout the school. Students who had doubted her now approached her for guidance. Teachers, previously cautious, sought her advice on handling situations. Even those who had challenged her began to respect her, not out of fear but admiration. At home that evening, Arya reflected on the events. She had faced tests, subtle and overt, and had emerged unshaken. She had guided others, protected her peers, and neutralized threats without unnecessary force. Endurance, she realized, was not just about surviving danger. It was about teaching others to rise alongside her. Her parents watched her thoughtfully. "You handled today well," her mother said softly. Arya nodded. "It was not just me. Liam, Myra, and Theo helped. Understanding and cooperation make strength effective." Her father smiled. "You've always known how to endure. Now you're showing others too." The next week at school, life began to normalize, but with a subtle shift. Students moved differently around her, no longer whispering with fear or suspicion, but with curiosity and respect. The small team she had trained grew quietly, more confident in observation and calm response. High school, once a confusing and unpredictable place, had become a space where Arya could use her skills for good. Selena approached her one afternoon. "You've changed things here," she said. "Not just with students, but with the whole atmosphere. People are different around you." Arya smiled faintly. "Change is inevitable when someone acts differently. My role is not to dominate, but to guide and protect." Liam, Mara, and Theo joined them. "We've learned a lot from you," Liam said. "Not just about noticing things, but about staying calm and thinking ahead." Arya nodded. "That is the lesson. Strength is more than physical. It is awareness, patience, and understanding. You have all shown that you can endure and act wisely." The school year continued, but now Arya's presence was integrated into the life of Westbridge High. Students respected her, sought her advice, and even approached challenges with more thoughtfulness. Teachers valued her insight, and minor incidents were handled with subtle efficiency. Even the mysterious devices and incidents ceased after her final confrontation in the auditorium. Whoever or whatever had tested her had learned its lesson. Arya's calm mastery and strategic action had demonstrated that she could handle unexpected threats with wisdom, not just strength. By the end of the semester, Arya had not only endured high school, she had transformed it. Students and teachers alike had learned from her example that observation, patience, and calm action could overcome fear, confusion, and chaos. One quiet evening, as she sat by her window looking out at the school grounds, Arya reflected on everything she had endured: interstellar war, survival, and the subtle battles of human society. Each challenge had required strength, observation, and endurance. Each challenge had taught her something new. And here, in the midst of ordinary human life, she had learned that her greatest victories were not in combat, but in guiding others, protecting those around her, and showing that endurance could inspire more than fear. It could inspire respect, cooperation, and growth. High school had no idea how to handle her at first, but by enduring, observing, and acting with calm precision, Arya Voss had changed it forever. Because true strength, she knew, was not about winning battles alone. It was about rising above challenges, lifting others with you, and enduring in ways that shaped the world around you. And Westbridge High, once ordinary and chaotic, would never forget the girl who had arrived from the stars and shown them all what endurance truly meant.